All right, so we're on to lesson 2.4, and that's writing equations of lines. So we're going to apply what we did in lesson 2.3 to mainly just add on to that. We did slope-intercept form. We talked about standard form. Now we're going to talk about point-slope form. So for this vocabulary, I'm just going to define it. I'm not going to give you one flashcard for the vocabulary today. So point-slope form is a line of this form. Y minus y1 equals m times the quantity x minus x1. Okay? So the things I want to define here from before, m is still the slope. Okay? M is still the slope. And then you look at x1 and y1. What x1 and y1 represent? They represent a point on the line. Okay? Those represent a point that lies on the line. So just knowing that, we can write equations in a different form now, okay? When we're given a point and we're given the slope, or we're given 2 points. Because if we're given 2 points, we can find the slope through those 2 points and then use one of the points to write point-slope form. So, writing an equation of a line. Using slope-intercept form, we're just using y equals mx plus b. I feel like we're pretty solid in that. Using point-slope form. If you're given the slope and you're given the point, you can just write it out as y minus the y value equals the slope, parentheses, x minus the x value. If we have 2 points, we'd have to first find the slope using x1, y1, x2, y2. And just remember that slope formula. y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1, if you can read that. So that helps us use point-slope form to graph or write the equation of a line. So when we look at this first example, this is a line, and we are given a point. More specifically, we're given the y-intercept. Our y-intercept is 1. And then for my slope, basically to find my slope, I pick 2 points, and I count the rise and the run. So the rise would be down 1, 2, 3. The run would be positive 2. So my slope is negative 3/2. So if I'm given the y-intercept and I'm given the slope, I can write slope-intercept form. Y equals mx plus b. Y equals negative 3/2 x plus 1. And there we go. We've got an equation of that line. Okay? So in the next example, I'm going to show you how to write it when we're given a point and the slope. So this is where we're going to use point-slope form. So remember, point-slope form follows y minus the y value of the point. So y minus 1 equals the slope, which is 2, times x minus the x value of our point, which is 2. So in this case, for our slope-intercept form, this is x1, this is y1, and that's our slope. Okay, that's our slope. Next, parallel and perpendicular lines to a specific line. So we write an equation of a line that passes through this point, -1, +1, is parallel and perpendicular to the line y equals negative 2x plus 3. So when we're talking about parallel perpendicular to this line, all we care about is that slope. Y-intercept doesn't factor into that. So the parallel slope to this given line is -2. The perpendicular slope is the opposite reciprocal. So opposite means this slope will be positive. Reciprocal means it would be 1/2. Okay, so I'm just getting the slope right off the bat there. And then I'm going to write my point-slope form for that. So that point-slope form is going to look like this. Y minus 1 equals -2 times x plus 1. Because we've got we've got a -1. Subtracting -1 is like adding 1. So there's a few things you could do here to write this in a more familiar form. We could convert this to a slope-intercept form. I could distribute the -2 to make this -2x minus 2. And then I could add 1 to both sides. And that becomes y equals -2x minus 1. And that's just a more familiar form for us. We're used to that. We're much more used to slope-intercept form. So next, the perpendicular line. Basically, the first part of it's going to be the same. It's still going to be y minus 1, and it's going to be 1/2 times x plus 1. Because the point they go through is the same. We're just changing around the slopes. So to solve this one for slope-intercept form, I would distribute first. This would be 1/2 x plus 1/2. And then to solve it for y, I would just add 1 to both sides. So y equals 1/2 x plus, and you could do this either way. You could write 1/2, or you could write 3/2. And I'm okay with either. All right? If you wanted to convert it to decimals, I guess that's okay, but I just want to make sure that you know how to convert this over to slope-intercept form once we've got point-slope form. So moving on to the next page, I got one more different type of example here where you write the equation of the line that passes through 2 points. So we're going to use point-slope form. Okay, I'm going to indicate that right now. Because we have 2 points, so we can use either point, but we need the slope. So we've got to do a little extra work to find the slope. So I'm going to do y2 minus y1. That's -3 minus 1 over 2 minus 3. y2 minus y1, x2 minus x1. This becomes -4 over -1. My slope is 4. So m is 4. And that is going to help me write this in point-slope form. I can pick either point to use point-slope form. I'm just going to use 3, 1. Y minus 1 equals 4 times x minus 3. And like we did before, we can convert this. Y minus 1 equals 4x minus 12. And then just simply to solve, I would add 1 to both sides. 4x minus 11. Okay? So, you can use point-slope form to recognize, to recognize you have 2 points. You already got the point in point-slope form, and you have the information you need to find the slope. So really all that's left is this guided practice. And what I want you to do with this guided practice, like I've been saying before, this is a great chance for you to kind of work on your skills and then check with me at the end. So I'm going to pause for 5 seconds, give you a chance to pause, work through them, and then start the video back up in order to check your answers. Okay, so I'm going to finish out this video by explaining through my solutions. So if you just want to pause it while I'm talking, that's fine, and kind of check over your answers and compare them. See if sometimes I make some mistakes if I rush through them, so I'll try and proofread and make sure that I did them right. But if you do have questions about how I did something, contact me, let me know, flag me down. So in the first one, y-intercept is -3, slope is 2/3. I can write it in slope-intercept form. So that one should be pretty straightforward from the last lesson. For number 2, it goes through this point with this slope. So I'm going to use point-slope form, and I'm going to use that slope, and I'm going to simplify it, and then make it more familiar, put it into slope-intercept form. So that's essentially what I'm doing there, is that I'm using point-slope form to get to point-intercept form. Or, sorry, point-intercept. Point-slope form, sorry. Next, number 3. I only did the perpendicular one because I really wanted to show -1/4 is the perpendicular slope. I'm going to show you the parallel one now. I'll do it in a different color so that there's a distinction. So that's perpendicular. Okay, parallel is a little bit simpler. Parallel is the same slope. So I'm using the same point. Y minus 3, same slope, 4, and then x plus 2. So this becomes y minus 3 equals 4x plus 8. I'm going to add 3 to both sides to show that this is y equals 4x plus 11. Main thing, parallel and perpendicular. Making sure parallel, we remember that's the same slope. Perpendicular, opposite reciprocal. The opposite reciprocal of 4 is negative 1/4. And then the last example here, the line that goes through these 2 points. The line that goes through these 2 points, we would have to find the slope first, which I did. Found it was positive 4/3. And then I used that and the 0.62 to write it in point slope form and then convert it to slope-intercept form. So I would say you guys are probably ready for the next step in this lesson. You'll eventually get to the practice and the checkpoint. Just make sure that you're taking your time, making sure that you're kind of understanding what's going on and asking questions, most importantly, through these lessons.